This demonstration series, we're going to discuss a series of different ways that you can do basic image corrections. This first one is going to be about tonal corrections. So if you go into your Lesson 2 folder for Mini Bridge and you find the 02 start.jpg, you're going to go ahead and open that. And you're going to have a picture that looks like this. And because it was a raw file, it's going to open up in this raw file introduction screen, which allows you to do some basic tonal corrections right off the bat before you even go any further. You'll notice up here at the top there are a number of different tools that you can select to magnify or to grab and drag with the hand, for instance. I'm not doing it right now, but you can do that. There's also the crop tool and so forth. But right now, the first thing I want you to look at is this tool called the white balance tool. And the first thing we're going to look at is how we can start adjusting this color cast that's on here. Right now there's this sort of weird color cast that's on here, and first thing we want to do is go ahead and adjust the white balance. You can click on any white place that's inside of this image. You could try first of all clicking in the graffiti area, and you see that that looks a little bit washed out. You could also try picking a white area of the shoe and see if that's a better selection of white. So anyway, we're going to try to change the basic white balance color. Okay, and you see that over here it changed it from as shot to custom. Okay, and if you were to choose auto, you can also see that it does something. It puts a very blue cast, and you see that it adjusted the temperature here pretty low. So we're going to go back to our custom setting and make sure that we've got that shoe selected. Okay, now we're going to look at the basic panel so that we can make some adjustments. You'll notice if you look at this picture that it's pretty washed out. It's sort of overexposed. Overexposing an image means that you're subjecting it to too much light. So it's going to be a little bit washed out, it's going to be a little bit too bright. So we're going to adjust the exposure so that it has a negative value, and we're going to just drag this scrubber down. That's what this thing is called, is the scrubber, to somewhere around about 0.5%. And if you want to get something that's exact, you can also type in the value here. And you can also bump the contrast up a bit, because right now you'll notice, well, before we really do it, you'll notice that the blacks aren't as black as they can be and the whites are not, well, the whites are pretty white, but the blacks are not as black as they can be. So let's try first bumping up the contrast somewhat, somewhere in this range. And then if we still want the blacks to be a little bit blacker, we can come down here to where it says blacks, and we can bump this value up some. And this image is already starting to look better. The other thing is down below in the panel. You'll see that I need to scroll down because I have my screen set to a smaller screen size so that the video isn't too big. But I can scroll down, and I want to adjust my clarity, and if I bump my clarity up somewhat, you can see it starts to look a little bit better. And the vibrance also, we can bump that up as well, somewhere in this range, around 25 or so. And lastly, we can also saturate it a little bit more if we want it to have like a little bit more of a pop for each individual color, but you don't want to turn the saturation up too much because an oversaturated image is too much like candy colors. And now the thing that you would want to do if you're happy with this, you could go ahead and click Open Image. You can also look at these other things and explore tonal curves and things like this. And you can play with these for right now just to adjust them. You can also adjust the color, the hues, and so forth. But we're just going to stick with the basic adjustments for right now. And I'm going to go ahead and click on Open Image. Now the thing that's also useful to remember is that you don't want to just save this picture as is. If you want to have different versions, you want to go ahead and go to File and then Save As, and we're going to save it as a copy. So we're going to call this 02, and we're going to call it working dot. Instead of .jpg, we want to change the format from JPEG to Photoshop, and we'll save it as a PSD. And what that's going to allow us to do later is go ahead and save all of our layers and so forth. At this point, you could have saved it as a JPEG still, but we're going to go ahead and call it PSD. Alright, so that's going to end this tutorial, and we're going to move forward to the next tutorial where we start talking about cropping.